All right, Kevin, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me and I appreciate it.
Yes, I'm excited to hear more about, your business. You have so many great years working with really coaching on the strategic planning side, business training, especially for folks in the RA space. So we share
Right.
that parallel there. And I'm really looking forward to getting into coaching. What does it mean? Talking a little
Okay.
bit more about leadership. I mean, could be a multi-series conversation, I know, but at least talking high level about it. So before we get into all of that, let's just
Sure.
hear about you. I want to hear a little bit more about your background and how you got to where you did today, and then we'll get into some of these questions.
Okay. Yeah. So the Renaissance Group, we've been in business for 25 years. With my partner is my wife, Jody. We both left corporate America to start
Mhm.
our own business. And that's kind of how the journey started, actually. As we were in the process of starting our own business, I accidentally fell into the concepts or learnings of Michael Gerber and the
Ah,
E-Myth.
yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
we visited. You're as a podcaster now, podcast host yourself. Do you remember 25 years ago how people used to get their professional and personal development, especially corporate people,
Mm-hmm.
cassette tapes? Before the
Mm-hmm. Yes,
podcast, right?
yes.
And so we were part of that Nightingale Conant
Mm-hmm.
program where they send you tapes and you have them for 30 days
Mm-hmm.
and you can listen to them. And if you want them, you can keep them.
Yes.
Or if you kept them, you had to pay for them, or you could send them back. And I just remember this one conversation with my wife saying, those tapes are due back tomorrow. Are you going to listen to them or not? This
Right.
particular set. And it just coincidentally, I had about an hour drive to go see a client, and there were these tapes called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from the corporate world, I wasn't really familiar with small business
Right,
training.
right,
I wasn't familiar with Michael Gerber.
right.
And I don't know why I said, all right, I'll just listen to him. And I was just enthralled by this man. He was kind of yelling and screaming on the tapes about how most people who start their own business are not entrepreneurs,
Right.
technicians suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure.
Mm-hmm.
And that what I'm really doing is not building a business, but building a job.
Yes, yes.
And I was just amazed at his message. And so obviously I kept the tapes, and especially the part about building, processes and systems
Mm-hmm.
to really help grow your business and make it less dependent on you. And I was a ex-industrial engineer. I came from the
Mm-hmm.
pharmaceutical industry. So systems and process were in my wheelhouse. And I'm like, wow, this guy's making sense.
Yes.
Bought the book,
Uh-huh.
read it, and at the end there was some contact information. So I reached out to Gerber's company and I asked them, could they help me and that kind of thing. And
Right.
they let me know that they were certifying E-Myth consultants. They were just getting started.
Okay.
And so my wife and I went out to Santa Rosa, California, and we were part of, I think, the second class ever to be certified as E-Myth consultants. So
Okay.
that's really how we got started doing the business coaching. And that's, the first big problem we solve is how we help business owners, grow in a way that makes their business less dependent on them using these E-Myth philosophies. And
Yes.
in terms of financial services or financial owners, coincidentally, one of the people in our certification class was a financial advisor from Los Angeles
Hmm.
who worked with a lot of small business owners, and he was looking for a way to help them. And he's the one that said, hey, you should work with financial advisors. They're technicians really trying to figure out how to grow a business. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the main service we offer, was the business coaching. And then as our clients grew and
Mm-hmm.
they added teams and staff, what we noticed was what was missing was some leadership coaching. So the other big service we offer today is what we call leader as coach, but leadership coaching for
Hmm.
not just the owners, but for anyone who's got direct reports, a team leader, a
Oh,
division leader, or the
yes.
business owner. So that's 25 years later, we're still doing business and leadership coaching.
Amazing.
Like I said, myself, I work with mostly
Yeah.
financial advisors.
Okay. So, you know, this is so good. I think it was one of the first books that I read as well. I'm just kind of getting into things, and I feel like it really, I mean, so many other kind of philosophies, EOS and others have kind of stemmed off from there, if you will. But now, do you to swing back with the financial space? Are you exclusively working with RAAs, financial advisors, or is it other folks, or is that your main core?
Personally, I primarily work with financial advisory type
Uh,
businesses.
uh-huh.
However, they do give, since a lot of them work with business owners, they give me
Right.
referrals to their business owners. And then we do target some other segments, women-owned businesses, a
Mhm.
couple other segments that some of our other coaches work with. So we segment the small business market up, and primarily with professional service type businesses,
Okay. Okay, so I love to hear since you're in that kind of world, right? Talking with business owners, especially those in financial services, what are there thematic leadership challenges that you're seeing maybe at a specific stage of growth or maybe that technician, sort of how they let go of being able, the delegate or die syndrome kind of thing? Or I love to hear more about what thematic changes, leadership challenges that you're seeing.
Sure, yeah. Well, people are hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People can be our big, our team could be our biggest source of joy
Mm-hmm.
or our biggest frustration.
Mm-hmm. So
So
true.
that's, so what's really missing, I think, is there's not a lot of training for leadership and management of direct reports. And you think about any of the certifications a financial advisor gets, a CFP, a CFA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't really teach you how to lead and manage people.
Mhm,
So there's that lack of knowledge, and
mhm,
so there's that frustration of I'm not really sure what to do
mhm,
when it's leading my people and that type of thing. Um, what I've seen over the 25 years is business owners, the owners of the business have gotten better at what I call strategic leadership,
mm.
putting those visions, values, missions,
Yes,
strategic plans in place. And maybe I'm biased because a lot of the business coaching, that's what we do. So
right.
I am seeing that. What I'm seeing, what's missing is kind of that what I call everyday leadership.
Mhm.
What are those day-to-day things we do,
Yes.
should be doing when we have direct reports?
Uh-huh. Can you give some examples of those when you talk about day-to-day leadership? Is it a meeting style? Is it complimenting people? Is it spending time? What kind of pieces do you feel are missing day to day?
Yeah, so a lot of things that you said is just, how do I give my people feedback?
Mm-hmm.
How do I conduct meetings,
Mm-hmm.
especially like a one-on-one meeting,
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing? How do I know, if my people are happy here,
Mm-hmm.
and until they leave?
Mm.
No, how do I have real conversations with them? How do I develop them and grow? And, I guess what they call employee engagement is a big discussion,
Mm-hmm.
especially in larger firms. But how do I know if my people are engaged? And what
Right.
can I do as their manager, as their leader to engage them?
Right. Let's take one slice of that. So you talked about meetings, right? Those one-on-one meetings. What
Mhm.
kind of recommendations would you have with someone? Because I mean, I've talked with advisors too, where they're like, I want to focus on my art. Like I love doing what I'm doing. I love working with clients, but then managing a team is hard. What kind of tips would you give in those situations? Because I think meetings can also impact like your day-to-day, your communication style, that kind of thing. How would you go into that one-on-one and being set up for success that is a win-win for both sides?
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. That technician from the E-Myth, that craftsman in us,
Right.
got into business. A lot of us because we like doing the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Advisors like seeing the client, and that's where they want to spend their time. So one of the ways to think about it is to have different roles. And so
Mm-hmm.
one of your roles, as soon as you add even one person,
Mm-hmm.
you're now a leader and a manager. And so when you're in that role,
Yep,
it's a different skill set than giving financial advice.
it is. Yep. And you're just in that role. Doesn't mean you've had experience with it, training, any of that stuff. So,
Yeah, so you're kind of the accidental manager.
mhm,
You didn't choose to do that. So
mhm,
so like anything, it is a set of behaviors and
right.
skills that you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
And because we don't like it,
Mm-hmm.
especially at the beginning, and we're not good at it,
Yeah.
the technician in us doesn't like to do things that we're not good at,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
It's harder
So
to push through, right? It's like this new way of thinking. adjusting I mean, the whole thing, your speech, all of it. So share a little bit more about that.
Well, so what do?
Yeah.
Right? We just kind of, I don't want to say ignore our people, but if they make a mistake or do not, we just cross our fingers and hope they'll get it right.
Hmm. Hmm.
We don't confront them. We don't go back and say, well, maybe it's me. Maybe
Hmm.
I didn't train them correctly.
Hmm.
Maybe I didn't share the vision,
Hmm.
enough times. Maybe I didn't train them correctly on how to answer the phone or talk to clients.
Hmm.
A lot of times we will blame them instead of looking internally.
Yep.
And so you do have to make that switch. Um, and so the reason we call leader as coach is, well, it's taken on a new identity. And so if you think about it, this starts with your mindset.
Hmm.
If you change your mindset and take more of a coaching mindset, or what we call a developmental bias, then your
Yes.
behavior is going to change to match that. So again, if your current mindset is you're the craftsman, you're the technician, you're the only one who can give great advice,
Yes.
where are you going to spend your time?
Hmm.
So I said, well, what if your job, when you're in this role of leader, is to be the coach? Your job is to develop your people.
Hmm.
And so change is hard, but that's the first step in kind of making that behavioral change of just let's change our mindset and start thinking like a coach. Then we can start acting like a coach.
Hmm. Now, I know you've got this kind of foundations for what it means to be a leader as a coach. Actually, I can share. I know
Yeah,
you
that would
have
be
that.
great.
That might be
Yeah,
helpful to kind of talk through what does that actually mean, right, for someone. And I'm happy to let me see if I can get this just a little bit bigger here for us. But can you kind of talk us through this? I'll get even a little bit bigger here. For
yeah,
what does
cool.
this mean, right? Because I know you've been using this terminology, leader as coach, and I think it would be helpful to kind of break it down just a little bit more, to kind of understand those components of it, for someone that does want to have that, well, there it is, coaching mindset right in the middle. So,
Right. Yeah, then it's right in the middle. So that's kind of your starting point. So yeah, so we just kind of, so there's so much to leadership and
right.
management. We just try to kind of break it down into a couple of foundational behaviors and foundational skills
Mm-hmm.
that anyone could start working on this year and see some really great results with your
Mm-hmm.
people. So like we said, it starts with that mindset, and your job is to kind of develop your people.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that behavior, or let me go one step quick. If you
Yep.
start to think in terms of that mindset, that every interaction with your people, whether a formal meeting or just a bump in the hallway, you have an opportunity to develop your people
Mm-hmm.
and help them, make progress. And again, from an identity standpoint, identity drives our behaviors. If we can make this switch to thinking of ourselves almost like a sports coach,
Yes. Okay.
it's not a perfect analogy, but
Right.
when you think about what a sports coach is doing, yes, they're sharing the vision and the plan, but then when they're practicing or a game time, they're giving, they're giving constant feedback and talking to performance with the
Yes.
people all the time. They're not waiting for an annual review.
Mm-hmm.
And especially your talented people. And here's a great visual. If you can picture this, I use it sometimes in presentations. I got a picture of Coach K, the Duke coach Krzyzewski, who when he was Krzyzewski, I can't even say it. That's
No,
why we
no.
call him Coach K.
Yes.
When he coached the Olympic teams, and
Yeah.
there's a picture of him giving LeBron James, some say maybe the best basketball player, instruction, giving him
Uh-huh.
coaching. So even our talented people, if we can picture ourselves as we're coaching our people,
Right.
that's what we want to do. And so then these three behaviors, conducting regular scheduled one-on-ones,
Mm-hmm.
regular feedback, and delegation, um,
Yes.
are just some behaviors that we can start to help our people develop.
So can you talk a little bit about feedback, right? Because it's people receive feedback in all different ways, right? Sometimes it's very like defensive. Sometimes people are like, I want all the feedback, give it to me. Like I want a 360, I want regular, feedback. Some people kind of hide behind curtains to avoid feedback. What in that coaching mindset, what kind of recommendations do you have maybe in those one-on-ones to be able to help with the feedback piece of it too?
Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah, so what you're going to do is you're going to tell your people that one of the things I want to do this year is get better at leading and coaching you. And so I want to give you some more feedback.
Mhm.
And so we teach a couple of feedback methods and we focus on what we call positive feedback and neutral feedback. And
Mhm.
the positive feedback is basically you want to catch people doing things right and give
Yep.
them clear and specific feedback what they did right, how
Right.
they interacted with that client or
Yep.
if it's a team
Specific
meeting.
example.
Yeah, and not just general, hey, great job. You want to say, hey, that was perfect. The way you responded to the client,
Mhm.
answered all their questions,
Yep.
got the forms in a timely manner. That's
Yep.
exactly how we taught you,
Mhm.
positive feedback.
Mhm.
We want to correct behaviors. And again, we're focusing on behaviors.
Mhm.
If it was something that we want change, we're going to give what we call neutral feedback and
Mhm. Mhm.
say, like, you're someone who interrupts other people during a meeting or something
Mhm.
like that. You want to give it in terms of neutral, saying, hey, Kevin, listen, when we were at the meeting today, every time Lauren spoke, you kept interrupting her.
Mhm.
Could you stop doing that?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's all people don't want to give feedback because they're afraid it's going to take too long.
Right.
It's discussion of Kevin's mindset during the
Yep.
meeting. It's here's the behavior that's acceptable. We don't
Uh-huh.
interrupt other people during the meeting. Could you stop doing that?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so less is more in this situation. Just in a warm way, but kind of direct, but also not kind of going on for, 5 minutes about talking
Yeah.
and interrupting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then your other point of some people don't accept feedback well.
Hmm.
So one of the things you'll do during your one-on-ones is have a discussion about how do we give feedback and how do you want to receive feedback?
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
You,
Oh,
you know,
so you actually like having a conversation and getting
you
that
could,
kind of from the
yeah, you can
individual
talk
too.
about feedback.
Yeah.
You can feedback. Again, you can put in a way, like you said, different people accept it in different terms. So you do
Right.
want to customize it to the best you can.
Right.
But again, if you're focusing on the behavior, here are the behaviors that make people successful at our firm.
Hmm.
And here's what I'm seeing. So again, one of the ways to think about feedback is if you can't see it, it's hard to give, you know, good specific, information on it.
Right. It's too abstract. It's hard to like latch onto.
Yeah, you don't ever want to say things like you have a bad attitude or,
Hmm. Hmm.
because if I say you have a bad attitude, what are you going to say?
Like,
No, I
like,
don't.
yeah, like tell me more. I don't
No.
understand. Or yeah, right.
Yeah, but you can say, hey, I noticed you interrupt every time
Hmm.
it speaks. We can see it. So
Hmm.
you want to let them know that you're giving them feedback. It's there to improve future performance. That's the whole
Hmm.
point of feedback.
Hmm.
And might have to talk to people about what is the best way to accept feedback.
Hmm. Yep, makes sense. Okay, so just a piece on delegation because I want to make sure we get to skills, like
Sure.
just being mindful of time. Just a quick thought today. I was actually literally like minutes before we chatted, I was going back and forth, and I saw something that I personally try to reinforce with our group is I saw something that needed to be updated, and I know I could have done it. It probably would have taken me just a few minutes, but the simple act of, I think, asking someone else to do it helps to get into the patterns and habits because it's really easy to do it yourself. And I think
Yep.
the delegation of the feedback helps people to learn. Do you have any other examples of kind of folks that are in a leadership role that would help encourage delegation, not just, here's 10 tasks kind of thing? So,
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the obvious thing is we're all stretched for time, right?
right,
So
right.
if we could delegate work, we would be able to save ourselves some time.
Hmm.
Here's what we do with our clients. And again, back to the coaching mindset and taking it to the next level. We
Hmm.
think of delegation as a way to develop our people. So we
Hmm.
think of it delegate to develop.
Hmm. Oh, I like that. That's a positive bend on it. Right.
So if we need our people to eventually say maybe in a client facing role, maybe they're in a para planning like position now, or
Right, right.
what we want to start do is delegating some work that challenges them
Hmm.
and develops them. Maybe, presentation skills or being able to ask and answer questions and those
Mhm.
types of things. And so get back to that technician, and you talked about it a little bit. The challenge is we're craftspeople. We like to keep the challenging work.
Mm.
We like to do the hardest work, which is also the most time consuming to
Right.
ourselves, and delegate the less than fun work.
Right, right, right.
But again, if our vision is we want to grow this business beyond ourselves, that technician, that craftsman, if we eventually need other people who can do client work, we
Mhm.
need to develop them.
Mhm.
And so if we can delegate some of the harder work to them,
Mhm.
then you start to become the coach, you start to become the teacher. So some of the topics of your one-on-ones are, you're going to work with your direct report. So how are you going to get better at speaking?
Mhm.
What are
Mhm.
you going to do first? What are you going to do second? How is that, and then as you continue the one-on-ones, you have conversations about the work you delegated to
Yep.
them. How are they progressing?
Mhm. Yeah,
You
makes
know, so that again, so that's how we kind of tie it together to this development mindset, this coaching mindset is in addition to saving us time, one of the reasons we're going to delegate work is to help develop our people to get us to
Mhm.
where we want to go as a company.
Yeah, I like that paraplanner example that you gave too, because it's that, how do you kind of help to bring folks in? I also see models too, right, where there's more of a senior advisor and like a junior advisor too that's in the room to be able
Right.
to
Some of the
learn
team.
from folks um and to get into it. Let's get into the skills portion of it, that outer ring too, and kind of listening, questioning all these pieces. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and again, these are very fundamental, and they, on the surface, they're easy to understand, but they're
Hmm.
not easy to always implement.
Yes.
So we really, no one's really trained us in listening.
Hmm.
Just expected to know how to do it.
Hmm.
And so one of the things we want to do is get better at what's called active listening, but really paying attention and making eye contact, and even listening with understanding and empathy, listening to
Hmm.
learn,
Hmm.
and especially during the one-on-ones. When they come to us with a problem, we want to make sure that we're listening. And here's the cool thing, especially for a financial advisor that is giving advice to, direct advice to a client, is they should be good at listening.
Yeah.
They should be the one, listening to what a client is really saying, what the client's real concerns are, what the clients are really trying to accomplish. And so it's a skill set we should already have. We probably already have. We just really don't think about it consciously or intentionally applying it to with our own people.
Yeah, you could do a whole workshop just on listening. I think especially for financial advisors. I mean, not just within teams, but even just with clients. I'm sure you've done those before, but um,
You want a quick tip? If you
yes.
find yourself drifting off and not listening,
Uh-huh.
wiggle your toes. It'll bring you back to the kind of present.
Oh,
Where am
that is a very good tip. I like that. That's a great takeaway.
I? All right. So questioning.
Yes.
If if you do just get one thing better this year,
Uh-huh.
asking better questions
Mhm.
will help develop your people, more than anything. And we have this mantra that we teach: ask versus tell.
Mhm.
And so what happens when one of your people interrupt you or come to you with a problem?
Mhm.
As we get paid a lot of money to be experts, right?
Right,
That's
right,
our satisfaction.
right.
And so we want to solve the problem.
Mhm.
Stop. Stop solving your people's problems. Don't tell them the answer. Don't be the advisor. Ask them questions.
Help them to collaboratively come to that end solution. Is that sort of the
Yeah. I mean, so one of the ways to develop people, probably one of your needs is that you need people who can solve problems,
Mhm.
right? And so we're going to teach them, in a sense, how to solve problems by kind of, turning it back to them, saying, well, what's the real challenge here? What is the problem?
Mhm. Mhm.
What have you tried so far?
Mhm. Kind of pulling it apart versus just sort of
Yeah.
like bam, pack on a solution without actually like understanding what's going on there. So,
Yeah. And the challenge is this way it takes longer.
mhm.
short term. But like I said, long term, then your people stop coming to you with problems, they come to you with solutions.
Which
And
is,
that's what we're trying to do in this whole idea of developing. If the one-on-ones, you should be spending most of your time asking questions, not telling.
mhm,
Similar with a client, when an advisor's working with a client, they should be spending a lot of their time listening and asking questions, not doing a lot of the talking.
mhm,
So again, it's a skill set to pay attention to. And if we can ask more than we tell, we start to really see our people start to grow and develop.
mhm. Okay, and then this last piece of it here, the directing.
Directing is being very clear about what you expect from people.
Mhm,
Um, it turns out we're really not that good at it.
mhm,
We think we're very clear because we're having these conversations in our head all the time, and we think if we tell our people once, they understand.
mhm,
And so when we say directing, really think about, clarity.
mhm,
Does my person, do my direct reports really understand what is expected from them?
mhm,
Expected in terms of timing, quality, quantity.
mhm,
Have we really laid it out?
mhm,
And I mean, this is a really, simple problem, but we probably hear it a lot, and you will say to one of your direct reports, hey, I need you to do this right away. Send this
mhm.
client the paperwork or get this signature or, I need it done right away.
Right, right.
Right
What
away
does
means
that
something
mean?
to you.
Yes.
It could mean something different to me. Well, right away means, well, as soon as I'm done all my other stuff, I'll get to that, boss.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we say directing and being clear, say, look, I need this to the client by 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Mhm,
Do you understand?
mhm.
Can you make that happen? Versus, again, I mean, it's an oversimplification, but we do it all day long.
Yep. Yeah,
Get this to me first.
clarity.
Can you get this to me first thing in the morning? Well,
Mhm.
what's first thing in the morning for you versus first thing in the,
That's right. Yep. The
so if we can be very clear and specific, that's what we're talking about in directing, that we really have to be better at our clarity.
Yep. Oh, this is good. I also enjoy, as you've been talking about this, there's, connections you can make between all of the rings, how, directing can impact one-on-ones and the feedback and all these things. So you can see how it all is at center point of the coaching mindset. I appreciate you talking through this.
Good.
Um, and we are about at the end here,
Sure,
of our
sure.
time. I feel like it's been drifting away, because I think we could, like I said, when we started, I think we could have multiple sessions on these topics. But I really appreciate you getting to some of those nuggets and what does it really mean for that coaching mindset, at large. Are there any other kind of final tips you think would be helpful to share or resources for folks that, do want to lean into more of that coaching mindset? I mean, maybe it's for an advisor that's got a small team, or maybe it's for a larger firm that has, multiple managers or even managers of managers, right?
Right.
Any other kind of maybe books or tips or resources even that you all have?
Yeah, so one of the ways to think about this is to
Mhm,
think of leadership as, this leader as coach as a system or a
mhm,
process
mhm,
that you can teach other people in your company.
mhm.
It's almost like a coaching culture. So as your firm does grow and you have other people with direct reports, here's the way we give here feedback here.
Yes, yes.
Here's the way we conduct one-on-ones here.
Mhm.
Here's the way we ask questions. Here's even maybe a list of some of the best questions at work during the
Yes.
one-on-ones. So one of the ways to get it to work for you is to start thinking about this, back to the E-Myth, as a process or system. Leadership at our company is a system. We
Mhm.
have it documented and we can teach others how to do it. So I
Love
think
that.
that's a great way to think about it to help your firm grow.
Yeah, I love that because it's not just about shaping the systems, but that shapes the culture. So
Mhm.
the systems are helping to shape the culture, which helps to also just shape the scalability of the culture to be able to keep that intact of that, leadership first, and helping each other, because I think a lot of the methodologies that you shared, that, they're not the I'm going to excel by bringing other people down. They're more that we support, and that helps to grow collectively, which also impacts the culture at large too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so fun. Well, we'll make sure to include links to your website and resources as well. I'm sure folks will be interested to learn more. Like I said,
Sure.
I feel like we could talk about this for quite some time. But some really great takeaways. I really appreciate your that chart was really helpful, and I think it really helps to illustrate that
Oh,
coaching
good.
mindset.
Good.
So
Good.
yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, Lauren.